welcome to this edition of the Nollywood Study Center's Filmmakers Forum. The Nollywood Study Center is a unit of the School of Media and Communication of the Pan Atlantic University. And this is a platform that we use to foster interaction amongst the practitioners in the industry and also between the practitioners and the general audience. So once again, you're all welcome. My name is Ikechukwu Obiaya. Our session today focuses on what is a very important aspect of the industry, which is the whole area to do with rights, the establishment and protection of rights in the Nigerian filmmakers industry. We all know how much we have had to battle with the aspect of piracy and the whole struggle to really make the business beneficial to the practitioners as it were. And really, this is a key aspect for discussion to see, well, what exists, what has been done, what can be improved, etc. And to facilitate this discussion or this enlightenment, we have our panelists, whom I thank very much for their willingness to join us this morning in this session. We have with us Beverly Agbakuba Onyejianya. We also have Mahmoud Ali Balogun. We have Isioma Edibe, and we have Charles. We're all most welcome. Thank you once again for joining us. I will just read the profile and then we'll get going. Beverly Agbakuba Onyejianya joined Olisa Agbakuba Legal in January 2017 with over a decade of experience in regulatory and compliance in financial services in Nigeria and the UK. Specializing in corporate and commercial matters, she covers areas such as startups, entertainment, technology, employment, and intellectual property law. Beverly is also an accomplished sports governance and policy expert, contributing significantly to the updated national sports policy for Nigeria in 2022. As a thought leader, Beverly has authored numerous articles and publications on sports law, entertainment law, compliance, and governance, showcasing her expertise. In addition to her role as a dispute resolution professional, she serves as a mediator and arbitrator, particularly excelling in sports dispute resolution. Beverly holds accreditation as a mediator with the Lagos Multi-Door Court and Lagos Court of Arbitration, and she is a member of the FIFA Mediation Panel and Sports Resolution International Panel since 2022. She actively contributes to the industry, being a member of Women in Sports Law, Switzerland, and holding the position of chairperson in the Nigerian Bar Association section on business law, sports, entertainment, and technology committee. She's also a member of the NBA Lagos Chapter Sports Committee. Beyond her professional commitments, Beverly is the founder of the Lagos Tigers Football Club, a grassroots youth football academy in Lagos, reflecting her passion for youth sports development. Her influence extends globally as she is a sought-after speaker at international and national conferences covering sports governance, intellectual property, regulatory and compliance, and personal development. Beverly recently received the Executive Presence Lawyer Award female category from the Business of Law Awards. Beverly, you are most welcome. Thank you very much for being with us this morning. Our other guest, our other panelist, thank you. Our other panelist is Mahmoud Ali Balogun, who is once again joining us. He's been with us on this platform on various occasions, and we're always very happy to welcome him back. Mahmoud Ali Balogun is a filmmaker, cultural worker, and managing director of Brick Wall Communications Limited. He's currently the chairman of the Audiovisual Rights Society of Nigeria, an association that he helps to birth. Mahmoud studied dramatic arts with a specialization in film and television at the then University of Ife. Mahmoud is a film producer and director, and he is also, sorry, he has been in the Nigerian film industry for over 3 decades. He has to his credit various feature films and documentaries. These include Tango with Me, Dance of the Maidens, Traditional Marriage Rights, Birthing a Nation, Dividends of Democracy, Trafficking in Women and Children, The New Slavery, Environmental Pollution in Nigeria, Child Abuse in Nigeria, High Life, the Endangered Music Form, and A Place Called Home. He also worked as a film consultant on the hit romantic comedy Flower Girl, the highest grossing Nigerian film of 2013. He has been involved in various associations and bodies, such as the Independent Television Producers Association of Nigeria, (ATPAN), National Association of Nigerian Theatre Arts Practitioners, (NANTAP), and the Conference of Motion Picture Practitioners of Nigeria. Among other things, he has also been a member of the steering committee for the Motion Picture Council of Nigeria, (MOPICAN), and has served on the advisory council for Federation Pan-African, the Cinemas, the PACHI, as well as on the jury of the 2015 National Emmy Awards. Mahmoud is also a member of the Nigeria Oscar Selection Committee, the Advisory Council for the Nigerian Film Industry, and the Advisory Board of the African Movie Academy Awards, AMA. Mahmoud, once again, you are very welcome.
Thank you.
Our other panelist is Isioma Idigbe. Isioma heads the Media and Entertainment Practice Group. She obtained her Bachelor of Law from the University of Kent, Canterbury in 2014 and graduated from the Nigerian Law School in 2015. She has a certificate course in entertainment law from the Osgood Law School, University of York, Toronto, Canada. She is a member of the Nigeria Bar Association and the International Association of Entertainment Lawyers. She is the founder and the first president of the University of Kent Nigerian Law Society and a student mentor in the Kent Law School Professional Mentoring Scheme. Isioma is the secretary of the Music Publishers Association of Nigeria and is also the managing director of Verif Content, the due diligence checks company on intellectual property in Nigeria. She is a recipient of the Rising Star Award at the 2018 Law Digest Awards in recognition of her legal work in the Nigerian media and entertainment industry. Isioma, once again, you are very welcome. Thank you for being with us this morning.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, last but certainly not the least is Charles Amudigwe. Charles Amudigwe is the Deputy Director, Operations, and serves as the Head of Operations Unit at the Lagos office of the Nigerian Copyright Commission. He holds a bachelor and master's degree. He holds a bachelor and a master's degree in statistics and criminology, respectively. He is a dedicated public servant with a deep commitment to enforcing copyright laws. With over 25 years of experience in enforcement, Charles has demonstrated exceptional leadership skills and a deep understanding of copyright protection. Throughout his career, Charles has led numerous successful anti-piracy operations. His expertise and dedication have resulted in the prosecution of many copyright infringers, effectively combating piracy and protecting intellectual property rights. Charles, you are very welcome, and we are particularly pleased to have you because the aspect of enforcement is something that we are also concerned about and will certainly appreciate knowing a whole lot more.
Thank you very much.
So once again, I welcome all our panelists. I welcome also our audience, our guests as well. Please feel free to drop your questions or comments in the chat box, and we'll take them from there as we go along. Everyone is once again very welcome. Well, let's set the ball rolling. And I must say I'm pleased that we have so well a representation of the different aspects of the creative industries. We have an expert in music, an expert in sports, an expert in film. So it's a good coverage, as it were. The creative industries, as we know, are noted for their potential to create both jobs and wealth. And this stems from the ability of creative people to earn money from their intellectual property. So let's begin by defining the key terms or some key terms. What do we mean when we talk about intellectual property? Charles, I will turn to you first, given the role of the NCC here. What are we really talking about when we talk about intellectual property?
Thank you very much. Um, Simply put, intellectual property is that right that
I'm sorry, Charles. May I please ask you to put on your video so that people can see you?
okay.
Thank you.
Can you see me now?
Yes, yes, we can see.
Okay.
Thank you.
I was trying to put forward a simple minute to intellectual property. Um, Let me start by saying it's a property that you had rights to arising from the creation of your intellect. And when you talk about intellectual property, you're actually referring to the rights that accrue to you from the creation of an idea. And like we all know, the intellectual property is subdivided into copyright, trademark, and patent. And over time, we have discovered that intellectual property has actually gained ground in our environment here. In recent times, we can see the volume of economic gains that intellectual property has brought into our GDP. And the exploitation of this intellectual property is what I could say is the challenge that we face today. And I'm sure in the course of this discussion, we will delve into those challenges and the solutions that may arise. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, Charles. Thank you. Let me turn now to Beverly. Beverly, you are very much involved in the aspect of sports. For some people, it may come as a bit of a surprise that sports is considered to be a part of the creative industries. And also with sports, we are also talking about intellectual property. So in trying to define what intellectual property is, I would like please if you could narrow down in this to this area of sports. When we talk about intellectual property, how does it apply
Okay,
specifically this area of sports?
in the area of sport. Okay, so thank you so much again for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. So let me follow on from what the previous speaker mentioned. So the key thing he mentioned is intellectual property arises from the creations of your mind, ideas, inventions. They may not yet be what's the word? Ideas, of course, we know are not protected. So I think the key thing to just point out is that your intellectual property becomes sort of, it's intangible, but it becomes something of value when you convert it from an idea into something tangible. So I'll give you an example in the sports industry. I'm sure we've got football fans here. I'm sure we've got people that love tennis. We've got people that love volleyball and so on and so forth. What makes sport one of the most actually rich industries for intellectual property is because sport is such a visual and tangible industry. It's visual in that many of us consume sport by watching programs on TV, by following sport, say on the radio, by following sport at live games. We enjoy sport in so many ways. But what is it about sport that makes it rich with intellectual property? It's the logos you see. I mean, you can ask your average 5-year-old to identify at least 10 different sporting clubs, and they will easily identify from the Man U's to well, maybe not the Nigerian ones, but we need to do something about that. That has to be urgently addressed, just like the previous speaker said. But internationally, they can identify at least 10 different sporting logos. So the trademark that represents the logo is one of the richest forms of intellectual property you can own. I mean, a mark like Nike, you can imagine, is one of the world's richest, wealthiest marks, if you can put it that way. Let's also talk about esports and gaming. I mean, we all know the value of this industry. It's growing exponentially day by day. We even now have esporting athletes that play games full time for a living. So how do they have intellectual property? They have intellectual property because of their image rights, the rights to be associated with certain brands. They are paid quite handsomely to be associated with a brand to increase the value of that brand. So we're talking about the visuals, we're talking about licensing. Oh my goodness, let's not talk about how much our local, well, they're not all local, but media and broadcasting companies are paying, whether it's the EPL or whether it's our local leagues in Nigeria. They pay a lot of money. Companies, private companies, public television companies pay a lot of money in licensing for the privilege of having access to, the finals, or you name it. So you have so many components of intellectual property in sports. Let's not even forget the outfits. Okay, I mean, people are paying up to $80 for a jersey. The Nigerian national jersey is today one of the most highly prized and coveted. And this is amazing because 10, 15 years ago, it was not cool to be in a Nigerian jersey. You wanted to wear national jerseys of the UK, even the US, which doesn't even have as good a football team as we do. But now our Nigerian jersey has gone through a kind of revamp. It's now cool. It's associated with the Afro beats. I believe Wizkid was one of the artists that was called in to do the campaign to make the Nigerian jersey cool again. We're actively promoting our Ankara motifs. So that design, that creation is intellectual property. So they pay the artist a one-off fee. They don't get royalties, mind you, to design. And then the national teams get royalties from the jerseys that are sold. And I can even tell you right now, I believe there's a Nigerian artist who is going to be designing the national team jersey for the UK. So one thing I love about sports is a very creative industry. It blends everything from art to music, because you need that fan engagement to really get people enjoying, the background sport. It's very visual in the outfits that people wear. And of course, the general public want to emulate the stars and the celebrities they see on the pitch, on the basketball courts, on the tennis courts, on the volleyball courts, in the pools, in the swimming pools. So yes, I would say that sports is a very
So looks like we've lost Beverly for a moment there. Okay, well, we'll
very
hello, Beverly. Okay, we'll come back to you. Okay, we
Thanks.
lost you for a
Sorry I
moment.
got
We
cut
lost you for
off,
a
but
moment.
thank you. I
Yeah,
hope you
no,
heard the
no
last thing
problem.
I said.
Yes, we
Okay.
did. We did. I was going to ask a bit of a follow-up. How much of this really comes to
Mm.
Nigerian jerseys, for instance? At least some years back, they were being produced by Nike. So how, in looking really at the sports arena, all of these different rights and so on, how much of this really would you say is coming to Nigeria? The way we will speak about the films, for instance, or the music. So how much of these rights are being benefited by Nigerians?
Oh dear, it's a little contentious if I'm very honest with you. I don't know if this is the right forum, but I do know that say FIFA pay a fixed fee. So this is the thing, they don't enjoy royalties. They pay a fixed fee to the federation, and it is actually FIFA that between FIFA and the manufacturer that enjoy actually the bulk of the earnings. So the NFF earns a fixed fee in the millions of dollars, but it's a fixed amount. Yeah. So I think to my previous speaker's point, I guess the main objective of today's conversation is really how can we make sure that that value chain benefits us locally? You know, we're tired of the brain drain, of the capital flight drain. How can we earn more and leverage more and enjoy the works of our minds and creations? Because we're very creative people, Africans, Nigerians in particular, very creative. So, yeah, I think we need to stop being exploited. I think.
Okay, good point. Thank you. Let me turn to Isioma now. Isioma is, you could say, more in the music space. So, Isioma, let me pose the same question to you, but let's focus now on the music area, the area of music. When we talk about intellectual property, how does it apply in this space of music, the music industry?
Hello, good morning, everyone,
Good
and thank
morning.
you
Good
again
morning,
for having
Isioma.
me here. Just a correction, I'm actually all across the creative industries. I think if I were to talk about what I do more, it would probably be 40% music, 40% film, and everything
Okay.
else makes up the
Okay.
rest. But I'll
So
speak about this.
let me just tap into your music 40%.
Yeah. So from a music perspective, I think music is probably the only part of the ecosystem where you can see that um, the talent is benefiting from their music, because all of a sudden now Afro beats is now pop music, um, and so that is great. But the problem that we have in music is the fact that the monetization is not domestic. And so there's this question of what happens when Afrobeats is no longer cool. Now, Afrobeats will always be cool to us in Nigeria and across at least the African continent. It would always be music that we will listen to. So, defaultly, we are the base primary market. But when we have a situation where artists are not able to domestically generate significant revenues from Nigeria and from the rest of the continent, we really are running a significant risk. And I can tell you, I mean, I work with artists and I mostly work with the labels. And the moment Nigeria, Nigerian music is no longer popular and they're not generating significant revenues, they will close their operations in this market as they have done before. A lot of people don't realize that these major labels were all in Nigeria prior to their. This is a return that we see. So there's this urgent need for the ability to domestically generate revenue. Jobs are on the line. Sustainability for these artists is on the line. And so a lot of work I find myself doing in music is actually working in international groups like the Music Publishers Association and more recently the Record Labels Association. I saw Mr. Chinedu on this call, who is our national coordinator at RELP. And I mean, NCC, we're doing quite a bit of work with the NCC to say, how do we fix the domestic issues, the collective management of copyright issues? I was opportuned to do a study. My ego, Uncle Mahmoud, was participated in that study with the NCC, where we did a study on the collective management of copyright. And, there were clear issues, which I think has led to the revisions of the copyright, the collective management directives, which is currently being reviewed by the NCC. This is critical because that collective management is sort of the most sustainable aspect of revenue that comes from the exploitation of musical works and sound recordings. Um, and there's the issue of the copyright levy that has recently been actioned, but a lot of people don't know that changes were made to the sharing ratio, where the rights holders are receiving the lower end of the amount, which is basically an abomination. You don't see that in any other country. And so the NCC has to do something very critical to return to the 2012 ratios. So these are real issues of sustainability in music. And I keep telling people, when you look at a graph, you see it goes up and up and up. There's a point when it gets to the top where you think you're still growing, but you're at the beginning of a tip down. And I think that we are at the beginning of a tip down when it comes to music, and a lot of people are not paying attention. I was listening to Kelani, who I love, and she just recently brought out a song called After Hours. That song is basically an Afrobeat song being done by an American pop star. So they're already taking the sound. The moment they are able to make the sound good enough that is a hit, that song is now on the Billboard top 10. So there's a real issue. And for me, the focus should be on creating sustainable domestic and African markets. Thank you.
Very good point. Very good point. Because I had heard something of that in the past. And what you say about creating a sustainable market here is a key. But we'll come back to that. Let me turn now to Mahmoud and to really this other big area where you could say we are doing more or less well in terms of in terms of benefiting from the right, which is the area of the film industries. So Mahmoud, please, I turn to you. How does the whole notion of intellectual property operate in the film world?
Thank you. First, I apologize. My video, I don't know, something I used yesterday. It's not coming on. I've been battling with it. Unfortunately, I'm not able to make anything of it. So I do apologize to everyone. Right. And then the correction I
Okay,
like to make. Right. I hope you can hear me clearly.
we can hear you. Yes.
Yes, I'm really sorry about the video. And then the correction I like to make, people are wants to say that uh, ABRS as a collective management body is an association. It is not. It's a company limited by guarantee, right? So we need to make that clear because a lot of my colleagues in the industry, people who are supposed to be part of it also, assume it's like any guild or association. No, it's like any company in Nigeria. It's just that it's not for profit. I hope I made that clear for those listening. Right. Like the intellectual property, I think all has been said. I'll just narrow it down to my industry. Right. It's that intangible thing we produce, we put together, whether as movies, but within it, you have so much. You have those who write, you have the performers, right? You have those who will do music and all that. But as it concerns ABRS, as it concerns the Audiovisual Rights Society of Nigeria, when we're talking of intellectual property here, for those who have rights and claims within the ABRS, are the people who put together the work from the producer to the writer to the director and the performers. And if that's your creativity, that's your intellect that you are able to put in a work, in a creation, whether intangible or tangible, that you are supposed to benefit from, right? Some of the challenges we face in our duty as collective management agents is people not really understanding what you are asking for. Right after they have bought their video, they have subscribed to a what do you call it? A channel that is streaming it to them, and you now want them to come and pay something again. Right. So it's that intangibility, that fact that people cannot really understand why they should pay for something they cannot handle, or something that already they have purchased. They don't know that even within that purchase there are other rights inherent. So as simple as that, I think the previous speakers have broken everything down. I don't think we need to dwell more on it. It's quite clear. Thank you.
Okay, but now perhaps we can drill down a bit more when it comes to this aspect of rights. It's a rather general term. We talk about rights, but if we were to look closely at audiovisual works, I think the same thing will apply across board in all the different sectors. There are multiple copyright holders. We take a film, and that film is not just one right. There's so many things there. The the fellow who has done the music, the fellow who has written the script, etc. So can you give us some sense? This is for you, Mahmoud. We'll spread it to the others in a moment. But can you give us some sense of the different rights, licenses, and assignments? And how are these individual rights holders affected in the distribution and exhibition of the end product? Because I think many times people do not understand the nature of their own rights in these various productions that they may get involved in. So, what are the different kinds of rights, licenses, and assignments that we could find in an audiovisual work?
Uh, Therefore, you have not so much together for me to answer. In
No,
terms
no,
of the rights
it shouldn't.
that
No, no, no.
the rights you want me
I
to
don't
identify, and then the
okay,
entitlement
hold on a
and the
moment.
licenses. Well, no, but I will do what I can.
No, no, but hold on a moment. I don't expect you to list all the rights. It's really just let us have some sense. You know, because people tend to think that with an audiovisual work, usually it's just one major right. But you and I know that there's so many other rights. You know, so that
Yeah.
for the people working in this space or who are planning to go into this space, it's good that people have some idea that, well, there are other smaller rights, perhaps. There are things that are involved there. And then, okay, fine, separate the question of how do you protect those rights. Let us have first, what
Right.
are some of the rights that exist outside of the more obvious ones?
Thank you very much. I think if you go to uh, section 11 of the our new Copyright Act, right? These rights are listed, but I'm going to quite bring them out now. One, the right to broadcast, right? That is to for them to relate to people and broadcast it. Right to public performance, right? Excuse me. Right. The rights to reproduce. I'm just picking them one by one, and then the four rights that we are talking about here, and the right to exhibit to the public, right? So with what we do with in AVRS, right? Those four rights are crucial. The reproduction rights, right? The right to communicate it to public, right? The right to communicating it to public, either through broadcast or through the performance itself, right? So those are essential, and of course, the rights of the performer, right? So there are people, like I mentioned earlier, four categories of people that we deal with, right? The the performer itself, which is the actor, actresses, the writer, the screenwriter. There's distinction between just a writer in our case, because those who just write and dump it on the table, they're not benefit, people who benefit from what we do. The rights are not what we're talking about. But those who have already produced for screen, rights for screenplay, right? So it's critical that we identify that. And then the directors who is a visionary for the creative work. So these are the rights we manage.
Okay.
And in terms of exploitation of these rights, uh, the people who exploit these rights are numerous, particularly those who use it for how do I call it now, to enhance their businesses. Those are the ones we deal with. You're talking of the broadcasters. You're talking of whether public broadcaster or the streamers and all that. You're talking of those who use it to enhance their business in their hotels, private businesses as salons. Even we are looking at hospitals these days, because you have hospitals now that use our works for therapy, right? You have Isioma and one of the panelists there, what they go to do at the salons, where they wait to dress their hair, to do their pedicure, where they play videos. Those people go to. So it's even the transporters. Those are key areas that we target. Um, but there are various challenges in that regard. I think those are the exploitation channels that we have. Of course, the broadcasters are the big guys, but we still have challenges with them. I'm sure in the course of our discussion, we'll come to touch on them. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mahmoud. Thank you, Mahmoud. Let me turn to you, Isioma here, taking it from the legal perspective. Usually, when we talk about rights, for instance, of a film, we focus on perhaps the director or the producer. But then, as we have already identified, there are other rights there. How are these individual rights holders protected in terms of the distribution or exhibition of the end product? Do is there structure in place such that if I have contributed to a film as perhaps the screenwriter, when the discussions are going along, then my own needs are also kept in mind. Does this writer have any rights after that film has gone out into the public space?
Okay, yes. So, I would, and I think maybe I'm preempting where this conversation really should end up, which is the fact that whilst the copyright law is fairly sufficient, and I use the word fairly intentionally because I mean those of us who are practitioners, um, particularly sector specific practitioners, still have one or two issues that we feel need to be adjusted in the law. But the basic law works and gives certain rights. However, because there's a lack of understanding within the market, and there's also a lack of a structure that, and when I say structure, I'm talking about like a almost like a self-regulating structure within the market, which you see in other developed markets that reinforce those rights contractually so that the holders of those rights derive the benefit. And I think AVRS is a very good example, and that's why Uncle Mahmoud was talking about how a lot of people in the industry don't even understand what AVRS is and how it can benefit them. And so AVRS, for example, suffers from one critical issue, which is that because even under the Copyright Act, I can assign all these rights that I have, right? So you look at a film production, what a producer will simply do is to acquire those rights by virtue of an assignment in a contract away from the original rights holder. Because remember that our copyright law actually acknowledges the creator as the original owner of the rights, as author. And then goes further to say, but they can assign that right and an assignment must be written. right? So they can license the rights, which is sort of a temporary interest, or they can assign the rights, which is permanent, and that assignment must be written. And because we don't have holdbacks within the law or within practitioners' conventions, right, and it's almost like it's a free for all in a way. So let me take this theoretical thing and now break it down into something that I think is easier to understand. I'm sure we all recall last year there were these series of strikes in Hollywood between SAG-AFTRA, the writers and the actors, and the production companies for months. A lot of people didn't actually really interrogate, like, what exactly are they striking about? They were striking about rights because the way the US and most other well structured markets are, these different rights holders enter into collectively bargained agreements that secure their interests. Does I hope like I hope I'm not getting too like highfalutin. So they
No,
enter
no,
into
no, no, no.
yeah, into this collectively bargained agreements that secure their interests. And so, for example, even if I'm a writer on a production, so back to your question, and I've been paid a flat fee, that fee is simply for my time, that flat fee. Under a normal and well structured system, my intellectual property rights I will earn off of on an ongoing basis through my guild or association or my collective management organization, because my contract would not be designed in such a way where I'm assigning all those rights. And so the only person who is deriving that benefit is the producer who commissioned me. There's an understanding, and fundamentally, there's a theoretical understanding that that intellectual property is too valuable, you understand, for you to just assign away, that you really and truly cannot put a number, a fair number behind what it is. And so the only way to fairly compensate for the intellectual property which you as the producer will be exploiting in this production would be to ensure that they can derive royalties through the continued exploitation of the work. And that compensates, and that is the compensation for the intellectual property rights that I have granted you. So these things are absent, and the law does not now create holdbacks, which is understandable, right? Because the law does not want to step into the place of sort of like commercial transactions between rights holders. But this is now where the rights holders need to create this self-regulating framework. And anybody, I mean, my dear sis here, Beverly, you know how many times I've been saying it for about 3 years, that there is now a need, particularly in the film industry, to go into these collectively bargained agreements. And last year, as AFRIF, I had the privilege of being the project director for AFRIF last year, and I'm doing it again this year. But there was a panel where there were talent managers from all over the world, the top talent agencies, and we had a discussion around what are the challenges in terms of contractually for local talents, especially when you're trying to sell them, abroad for services. And one of the things that came up was, in fact, the main thing that came up was the absence of laid down rules of engagement as it regards to contracts and rights domestically makes it difficult for you to even agree to a fair deal abroad, because they have to base what negotiation they are doing on what is obtainable domestically, and there is nothing. You understand what I mean? So an AVRS is there, is established. They have the ability to go and collect these royalties, but you know, they're collecting for producers who have the rights, not the screenwriters, not the actors. Most of those rights have already been given over to the producer. Now, if the producer decides that they want to be fair and share, fine, but most of us know that those contracts are not in place. So this huge commercial gap now makes this law that gives you those rights in effect ineffective.
That's a powerful point indeed. That's a powerful point indeed. Let me turn to Charles here. Charles, in line with what Isioma has just said, what, I don't know how to put this, but from the NCC's perspective, is that something that can be put in place in terms of, because this is really not, I wouldn't say it's it's NCC's role, really. This is now really something from the industry that they have to come to a better understanding of contracts and how to put it in place. But in terms of driving that discussion, or in terms of at least helping the people to put something in place, is that something the NCC can do or is doing?
Thank you very much. At every point, the Commission is highly concerned about what comes back to the owner of a work, what is due to them, and how is it trickling into their bank account. And that's why over time, the NCC had been advocating for change in the law that governs copyright in Nigeria. Even though the system is not too friendly to change. That's why it took the NCC over 12 years to come up with this new act. And while we were waiting for the act to come into effect, we discovered that certain sections of the law were already almost like 2 or 3 years obsolete. So the interest of the commission is to see that every right owner gets a commensurable return on their investment on what they have created. And in the sections of the law, you will notice that certain things have been put in place that could help a right owner to be able to get what it deserves. And over time, the NCC outside the law and also be collaborating with all the stakeholders in the industry to bring it to very close. The AVRS of recent, Mr. Mahmoud would testify to the fact that the NCC has been assisting them greatly to ensure that those people that are exploiting the audiovisual pay what is due to the company. Thereby, when the company is paid, they are able to distribute to the appropriate creators. Then, outside that, in the same vein with the music, we also been doing same with MCSN, who for now is the only recognized in the eye of the law to collect royalties on behalf of music. So in effect, the NCC has put in place through the act how these right owners can actually get something back to them. The scope of protection that we have in the law covers the literary work, music, artistic work, cinematography, sound recording, and broadcast. It also have the civil remedies where you, as a right owner, you can seek for injunction to prevent ongoing or imminent infringement activities, damages and compensations, which allows for the court to award damages to the right owner. Then delivery up and destruction. Court can order the delivery up and destruction of infringing copies and materials used for producing those illegal materials. The same way it has the criminal penalties where offenders can be fined or imprisoned or both. The Then the technological protection measure. Uh, because of the advent of technology into the space, the new act has actually put in place measures that can assist the online piracy that is ravaging the industry at the moment. So then we also have the rights management information that identifies the work, its author, and the terms and conditions for its use. Then the notice and takedown procedure is also there. The I could just go on and on to measure what is available there. But the key point is that the NCC is ever ready to ensure that every right owner in the industry, from bottom to top, top to bottom, gets what it's due to them at the end of the day. Thank you.
Thank you very much. There's a comment here that has been raised by Agnes, in which says this is why the equitable remuneration rights for performers in the current Copyright Act must be amended to align with the Beijing Treaty on Audiovisual Performances provisions properly. As the signatory to this treaty, which has been domesticated in Nigeria, the country is required to ensure that users pay equitable remuneration to performers whose performances are exploited. For audiovisual performances and actors, this remuneration is typically collected by management organizations such as ADRS. Okay, so what is implied here is that even though we are signatories, things are not fully aligned with what our structures to that treaty. Is that the case?
I didn't get that clearly. The line was breaking up.
No. Oh, I'm sorry. I was reading out a comment in the chat box
Yes, I had
in
a
which,
comment.
oh, okay. No, so I was asking that what appears to be implied in this comment is that even though we are signatories to this treaty, we are not fully aligned to the requirements of the treaty. And I was asking, is that really the case?
Yes, the treaties that Nigeria is a signatory to are very good treaties, but the issue is that some of them are not domesticated. And when you bring some of these treaties into our climate here, our own factor will always have a space in it. And that has been the challenge. Some of those treaties that has been domesticated, we are still finding difficult to actually bring them home to fit into our system so that at every point, the features and recommendations or the rights that we have in those treaties, the, the industry will be able to enjoy them. But you see, let me give this as an example. Just like you were trying to inquire from Mr. Mahmoud earlier and one of our guests about who and who in the film industry in the chain of production is entitled to whatever rights. You discover that this has created a lot of problem because you will see everybody coming up with their own rules that is outside the law. Recently, I was engaged with one of the film house here in Nigeria, and we were trying to assist them to investigate an online infringement. And I was taken aback that some of these people, when they finish their production, they do not even notify NCC about the existence of this work. And when I inquired further, I was also taken aback by what their response was that, okay, we just go to the court some down the road and we swear an affidavit. And I was so, yes, is not aware. So that these are some of the factors that will not allow these beautiful treaties to work effectively in our own environment.
Okay, maybe I'll come in here specifically to the
Yes,
question
yes, please.
on ground, right? I think the individual is referring specifically to the Beijing Treaty on Audiovisual Performances, right? And the law that we have that's been created, how it has given with one hand and taken with the other. Particularly, we should look at Section 69 of the law, right? Where it says there could be some cognitive entitlements to the performer, right? But the law, in as much as we have domesticated the Beijing Treaty, right, has now agreed with the treaty that, look, yes, the performer is entitled to some equitable remuneration, but at the end of the day, the performer cannot go to the user because, like Isioma said, performer, by virtue of the contract he or she has signed, has assigned the right to the producer who licenses the streamer, the broadcaster, or what have you. So the law is now saying the performer or the right owner, in this case, the performer, should go to the producer who initially signed with. So that is the lacuna in the law. That's some of the things, one of the things that we are battling with. Because in a situation where you can just go and reproduce my work, or you perform it to public, or you distribute the work, or you broadcast it, right? Because I have signed initially to in a work for hire contract to a producer, right? Then I'm not entitled to anything except I go back to the producer. So that is the challenge. That's the point that the guy is the questionnaire is trying to raise. Like, how do we address that? And like Mr. Amudike said, yes, there are treaties that we have signed that because of our peculiar challenges locally, we're having challenges with implementing them. But this is quite clear, right? We cannot go and follow the example of what Europe is doing or what they are doing in America. Our local condition, right, should be very, very key, right, in the kind of law or clauses we put in place. That's the point.
Thank you very much, Baba. Thank you for the clarification. Let me turn now to Beverly, because we're talking now about contracts. And well, previous to this conversation we're having, I one has heard from various persons in the industry about the challenges they have with contracts. It's either that people fail to sign contracts, or they sign contracts and the contracts are not respected. And now
Mm,
Isioma has raised the issue, which Mahmoud has also emphasized now, about the assignments of
yes,
rights come up in some of these contracts. So really,
yes.
let's talk about contracts a bit. What are the issues here? What can be done? I think some of this is perhaps due to ignorance, that many people are not aware of what they're signing away when they sign
Mm,
contracts. So
mm,
really,
mm,
what are your views in this area?
mm. Interestingly, because we've actually seen a surge in disputes on this particular area of moral rights, licensing, work for hires, people not being fully aware about the full picture of the type of work they're being engaged for, and they get to know the fuller details at a later point, and there's that realization of, oh, I'm actually part of, say, a production that's going to be streamed on, say one of those global names, but the money, what I was paid was not commensurate to what I believe I should have been paid. So we've seen a lot of these disputes, and the truth of the matter is we can only plead ignorance for so long. I hope you can all hear me and see me. We
Yes,
can only
yes,
plead ignorance. It really behoves on all members of the ecosystem, whether it's the screenwriters, script writers. And interestingly, I was at an event earlier this year. It was like a women in Netflix event, and the lady stood up and she said, "We, the script writers, the screenwriters, we are the ones in the back. We are in the back room, and we don't get the recognition we deserve. We don't get paid what we deserve, all the flowers and the glory goes to the filmmakers and the A-list celebrity stars that they repeat, that they rinse and repeat. So I think even though the NCC, as it were, and the other bodies are, they acknowledge, thankfully, that there is a problem with the structure of compensation, there's already a change. There's already a shift because people are waking up to the fact that they are being exploited and it's not going to carry on for much longer. I agree with my sister Isioma about what she said about the need for proper collective bargaining, proper collective bargaining. We don't have the standardization of agreements that is so desperately needed. One thing I will continue to say is where the entertainment industry in Nigeria gets it not as good as, say, international sport is, that ability to truly feed everyone in the value chain. So when you compare and contrast it with, football, where everyone is eating, literally, as long as the child has trained in a club from ages 12 up until ages 23, every training club that trained that child is going to get a share every time that child transfers to a professional club. We really need to have that same, I mean, it's just an analogy, but the analogy of everyone should enjoy some form of royalties from their participation, from their performances. We are too fixated on, okay, let's just do a work for hire. You get paid your 200,000 naira. And yes, some people get as low as 200,000, even script writers, for the work they do. And it's truly abysmal because you're talking about, say, a production of maybe half a billion naira. Yes, it will make the industry, it will force the industry to wake up because all of a sudden you can't pay people on the cheap, right? It's all about minimum wage, isn't it? People exploit the system. Let's not even lie to ourselves. Even some of our clients are exploiting the system. They're paying people so low because they know they can get away with it. But if we move into these standardized contracts, if we move into a position where the unions, I think we need to really emphasize the role of unions, whether it's the Actors Guild, whether it's Dancers Guild, we really need to bring back the strength and power of these collective bodies. I love what Isioma said about, she gave the example of SAG and what went on there with the long strikes. Can you imagine something similar happening here? It wouldn't happen because guess what? You have no power, you have no voice. You're dealing with these script writers individually. You're dealing with an actor individually. Only if the actor is, say, of A grade, they have a bit of leeway. They can command, their respect and what they feel they're worth. But to be very honest with you, we see these contracts all the time. Again, I also work in entertainment, not just in sports. So we are seeing these values. And to an extent, as a lawyer, you can't tell them, what they should pay. Yes, to an extent, you can say, look, I advocate for better conditions. So things like, make sure you have your insurance coverage. That's something we do. Let's not even get into that. We don't even have the right enabling environment to ensure that we're fully protecting all the actors, no pun intended, involved in a production. It's just about, look, take your money, do the job, and go. So we really need more people in this room to continue to advocate for better rights, better working conditions, because we cannot look at, the remuneration in isolation. I am an advocate for overall better working conditions, in addition to, earning royalties from the work. Yes, ultimately, this is going to impact on the producers because they have to pay more, right? And Nigeria, somebody alluded to the fact that Nigeria has been seen as a raw materials ground. We're just known for raw materials. We just bring raw materials together, use them on the cheap, and then it is the internationals that enjoy the finished product. And we need to change this, but we can't change this unless we have more of those standardized contracts and best practices that I'm happy to hear, about what our the bodies are doing, like the ARV. So I'm happy to hear that, but they are only a drop in the ocean. There's so many other areas where we can improve, conditions for people who work, the performers who work in the industry. The exploitation, to be fair, is really, really a lot. And yeah, I do anticipate a lot more disputes. I think that's a good thing. I think disputes are a good thing. It's good for us lawyers, but generally it shows that the consciousness is definitely growing. People are not going to take things lying down. People will look at a contract and say, I mean, they may not know the mechanics of how the royalties work, but at least they will look at it and say, so this is all I'm getting. And you say that it's going to streaming, so we need sort of, I would say that more awareness programs. We even need some of these awareness programs to be done in Pidgin for people who perhaps are less educated, but really you need to break down some of these more complex terms on how compensation works and how it's on, and all the collective bargaining, sorry, the collective management companies, how they work, because the truth is many people are lost in the mix of how these things work. So unfortunately, we are living in a manual system. It's very manual, and unfortunately contracts are reflecting that as well. So if we can shift more to more standardized way of doing things, we also get the unions involved. We get the unions to recognize that they have rights. So we appreciate the work of Pan Atlantic, we appreciate the work all these bodies are doing, but more needs to be done to raise awareness so there's less exploitation and so there are less disputes. And also, I think it's important that I mention that, bodies like the NCC, I'm very happy that they have partnered with people to run a sort of dispute resolution platform where you can challenge or where you can present your intellectual property disputes. I think that's a fantastic thing. I'm one of the mediators on the international body, but I'm not actually one of the mediators at the Nigeria level. But there are some really sound people who are part of the NCC WIPO dispute resolution panel. So guess what? You will be guaranteed that people who truly understand how intellectual property works will hear your case, and hopefully justice will prevail, because the truth is these things will go to the high court or it will go to the NCC tribunal, and people don't even understand how those things work. But if you take it to a say NCC WIPO tribunal, there's just that opportunity for the true experts to get involved in your matter. So I think it's important that as much as we are talking about the mechanics, the contracts, we also need to talk about dispute resolution, because dispute resolution is what actually guarantees and helps with the enforcement side. Because many people are not even trying to enforce their rights. They're worried about the costs. They're worried about the time. They also complain about legal fees. I think Isioma and I have had that conversation. We've heard this a lot at events. Oh, lawyers. But you know what? You need to start from somewhere. So yes, better awareness around your rights, around dispute resolution mechanisms to help you enforce those rights. And of course, it all begins with the contract, because the contract is the first line of defense. If the contracts and if the terms of the
I
contract are
think if we allow
robust
you lawyers to
enough.
continue to talk, we will not go ahead in this thing.
Sorry, sir.
Beverly, sorry.
Sorry.
Hold on, hold on a moment.
Sorry.
may I just
Hold on
make
a
a
moment.
I
comment
think
on the
Beverly,
aspect?
you know your onions and she's going on and on. I think let's move on.
Hold on a moment. Hold on a moment,
May I
Charles. I want to
make
pick
Let
up
me
may I
on
make
switch off.
something.
I just
Yes,
comment
I want
on
to pick
the
up on. Sorry, Charles.
second
One moment, please.
part
I want to
of
pick up on
second to the last
something.
part of intervention, the issue of contract. Um, and I think I will want to support our position. Unfortunately, from our own side as the regulator, we see this on a daily basis, whereby the stakeholders in the industry come up with various petitions every now and then. And I think each time we look at this petition, what we see is lack of education. Most of them are not aware of the position of the law. on some of the issues they raise in their petitions. So I want to support our intervention by saying that there's need for education in the industry, whereby at the point of bringing up anyone, engaging anyone, there shouldn't be anything like verbal agreement. Every agreement should be in black and white. Secondly, it should also follow the provisions of the law. Let me give an instance. I have a petition that I'm investigating at the moment. It's about a movie, and the person that has the idea brought in a worker in the company and said, okay, gather me people to come and do this screen, to write this the script. And the company gave this guy the money to go organize these people. And he did. And he organized them and they put the script together. This guy now turned around to come to NCC to register the work in his name as the author, simply because he put together the team that wrote the script. And I think this is one of those things that we talk about lack of education as far as what and whose right it is to do what and at what point in time. So the issue of education and enlightenment is very critical in the industry at this moment. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Charles. Before Mahmoud jumps in, let me just add something to the comment he would like to make. Because the something Beverly said, which I think is key, is the fact of functioning as a collective. Because I think the challenge is, which has existed in our industry here, is that when one person decides to stand up, he thinks is right, what he thinks is due to him, the tendency is to drop that person and go to somebody else, or
Mm-hmm.
perhaps is not so much aware or doesn't know. And of course, but if there's a common platform, then of course that can be counted. However, the challenge is that people are reluctant to join the unions or the guilds. And that is really something I would like Mahmoud to speak to, because I know we've had this conversation before
Yes.
about,
Yes.
and for instance, you yourself have also mentioned now that people don't even know what the company
Yep.
ABRS does and this kind of thing. And people want to function as sole units, and this weakens the entire structure. So, in responding, please, Mahmoud, can you also talk about the efforts that I'm aware have been done in the past to try to bring people together
Thank you.
into this common platform?
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Doya. I think that is the crux of the matter, really, where the problem lies, right? The industry, despite the progress that we're making so far, right, it's not that structured, it's not that organized, right? People are mentioning unions, associations, and all that. What we have today in those names are not effective. And once you don't have any effective system like that, there'll be challenges everywhere. We mentioned what is happening in Hollywood with the Writers Guild, the Directors Guild, and Actors Guild, and all that. The way they were able to hold the industry to ransom, so to speak, and effect their rights. That can't happen here because of the way we are structured right now. Right now, basically, everybody is concerned about survival. You know, man must work. I reject the contract, the next person takes it. The issue of ignorance pervades the industry. And the few who know are too selfish to get involved in the organizations, that is the guilds and associations, that could bring succor, that could bring enlightenment to those who are just coming in or those who are in who do not know. Like with ABRS, we've had stakeholders meetings across Nigeria. And at one point last year, I told someone, I said, look, you can't be begging people to come and collect money because What AVRS is all about is to collect money on your behalf and then we distribute it to you. But we are calling you to come join. If you don't join, you do not get, despite the provisions of the law. That's what I'm saying. So, and again, the challenge we have is this one you mentioned, blacklisting. I know a few actors who have spoken and have been blacklisted by some institutions. All right? And they've withdrawn from speaking. We can't continue like this. So, if these organizations come together, these guilds and associations are effective and they protect whoever speaks out, right? The situation will improve. I get what I'm saying. One thing is, if you do not belong, you don't work with as a collective, you cannot advance anywhere. The people who finance these productions have a way of hand picking, right? And they keep giving joy to their lackeys. I'm using that word guidedly, you know. So advocacy in that direction is crucial, particularly with those who have made a name, those who have been able to do something with what the industry is offering. You can't call somebody who is still hungry, right, to come be a model in a fight, right? So it's my appeal to the stars, those who have made a name, so to speak, to come to the rescue of those who are upcoming, you know, because if they don't come up to speak, then we'll continue like this. I've been involved in this advocacy, you know it, I keep saying it, for decades, and we are yet there. Some of the things that have been put in place in terms of law, right, we're not even taking proper advantage of it. Of us trying to emerge with something new. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mahmoud. Let me take a question from
May
the chat
I
box.
Mr.
This is a
Ikechukwu.
question from,
Hello?
uh, yes.
May I interject?
Sorry, oh, Isiama, yes, please, go ahead.
This
Please
somebody
go
will have
ahead,
something to
Isiama.
say, I know.
Uncle Mahmoud, why are you exposing me like this now? Let
Okay.
me Uncle Mahmoud
Please go ahead. We can hear
has
you.
hit the nail on the issue. And Uncle Mahmoud, you know this to be true. You know this to be true. There was someone I called
Sir, Isiama, you're breaking up. We're missing half of what you're saying.
the
Hello,
hello,
Isiama? Okay, yeah,
hello,
it is breaking up. Yes, okay, we can hear you now. It was breaking up.
hello. Okay, I think I'm going to disconnect. Is it better now?
Yes.
Yes, yes, it's
Uh-huh. So even so what I was saying was I've seen incidences in the producers guild, in the actors guild, where you have enlightened people joining those associations, but there is pushback by the establishment. Because even in this chaos, there are people that benefit.
Sure.
And Uncle Mahmoud, you are aware of this situation. So to say that those who know are selfish is not true. In fact, Uncle Mahmoud, you know how many times I've gotten into trouble because of saying, guys, what we're doing, it doesn't make sense. This is not sustainable. What I will say is this: we now have a Ministry of Arts, Culture, and the Creative Economy. They have people from the industry that are working in that organization that can put pressure, not necessarily to get the government to pass laws, no, but to get the government to convene a forum that everybody will sit down at and agree to these collectively bargained agreements. Because guess what? Even those big names, they are losing money because we don't have this structure. When they go to negotiate these deals, and Beverly, you've done these deals, you know what I'm talking about. When they go to go and negotiate their deals with Netflix or whoever, DSTV or whoever, they're getting deals that
That's
from
a
a
thing.
monetary point
Mm.
of view, it doesn't make any sense. So where we are at, it's no longer a conversation. It must happen. Explicitly clear. Where we are at as an industry, particularly on the film side, it must happen. And we now have a dedicated ministry for us. We have our people in those ministries. We should use that. The industry has no excuse anymore. Everyone has the information. Some people just don't want to change. And those that are enlightened now have to push through it. I think for years I've tried to push through, and I think I've made some impact. And I'll continue to push. I believe we'll break down those walls. But it's not a hopeless situation in any way, shape, or form. And I charge the
Mm.
NCC that as the regulator on issues that have to do with copyright, you should be able to also convene. You should call the stakeholders together to say, listen, we've given you these laws. Okay, these are the points we need some improvement. We'll do our part. But go and sit down and do this collectively package agreement so that you can even benefit from what we've given you. There's the power of being of the convener. I don't believe that government should go and pass laws and mandate things. I don't agree with that. Right? It should always be private sector led. But the government can convene that private sector and insist the jobs are on the line, livelihoods are on the line. From even a national perspective, with what the creative industry can do for the economy of Nigeria, government bodies should take this kind of conversation seriously and do the needful. Again, I say it, this will be the third time I'm saying it. We have our people at FMACCE. We should hold those people to get this thing done by convening the private sector to sit down and standardize those contracts. And some of the old people, and I don't mean old by age, please, I'm not being an ageist. Some of the people that have held this industry to ransom, we need to break those chains. And we can't break those chains. But we all, those of us that know, need to be working together and working towards one collective goal of achieving this within a timeline.
Thank you, Sioma. Thank you very much. Let me piggyback on that to pose to Charles Alex. Alex is asking, because we are all looking to NCC as a regulatory body to, well, do the defense and do the driving. And so Alex asks a question which is relevant here. He says, considering the enormous task before the NCC to fight IP thefts and protect the rights of IP owners, how well funded is the NCC in terms of budget and other revenue streams to deliver on its statutory mandates, both locally and internationally, vis-a-vis the known capacity of IP thieves to do what they know best to do? Secondly, what is the success story of the NCC in terms of enforcement, say, in the last 10 years? This is a question from Alan Onyango.
Yeah, thank you very much. Let me start with the second question, the area of this success story as far as enforcement is concerned. Um, if we have to break it down to sectors, the music, the movie, the literary works. Let me start with the literary works. I think they are the ones that have really enjoyed a enforcement drive of the commission, so to say. And I'm sure Mr. Mahmoud would not want to hear this from me because every now and then
You
we
can see.
we talk about this bias for the literary industry, but that's the way it is for now. The success has been tremendous. We are the port, we both the sea and the air. stopping all the infringing literary works from coming into the country. Recently on airport, 340-footer containers of carrying pirated books were seized. And in Lagos office, in the last 3 years, we've seized over 5 to 6 containers carrying these pirated materials. Let me bring it down to the music and the movie. As we all know, the availability of the content of these two areas of copyright works have moved from the physical to the internet space, and the challenge is enormous because we discovered that the menace or the monster that we had in Alaba International Market has moved to the online space. And with the advent of this new law, we are now poised more to be proactive as far as looking at those infringing materials that goes online there. Then to the first question, um, I think it's a public knowledge in the industry. As a civil servant, should not be speaking directly to this, but I know it is a public knowledge in the industry that yes, the commission ought to be funded better than it's been the situation at the moment. And my Director General will always say this: if the NCC were to serve the industry better, it's the movement for this issue of funding to be increased or to come home better will have to be driven by the industry itself. And because my DG cannot just walk to the minister and tell him, sir, we need your funding. I know Mr. Mahmoud, if he wants to have an audience with the vice president next week, he has the clout to do that and tell him that this is what we want done, and the commission will get what it wants. So that's as far as I can say with respect to the first question. Now let me go back again to the second question. Recently, to combat the online piracy in the movie industry, we have a team that has just been set up to specifically look into these activities. And in the Lagos office, I happen to head that team. And recently, I went as far as Bomosho to effect arrest of a young man who was putting this Funke Akindele's movie, the new movie, online. And we brought the guy in from Ogbomoso to Lagos, and that team that's just been constituted on a daily basis will be looking at the internet space to search and look for all these illegal sites, where especially from the Telegram platform that are becoming a menace to the industry. It's very sad when you see the quantum of works that these people put on display and people are able to download them freely. Each time this report comes to my table, I feel very uncomfortable because I know what goes into the making of these materials. And when these materials get to these illegal sites and platforms, and people just freely download them, watch them on their phone, on their laptops. It's very saddening, and that's why we at the commission, we are trying as much as we can. Of recent, we engage with YouTube to see how we can even take this further. And I know that with the support of the industry, we can do better than we have done so far. Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Sorry,
sir.
please, Mr. Ikechi,
Isioma,
let me just say something.
yeah, sure. Isioma and
Because
Beverly wanted to
After
because
speak.
I
you.
have engaged NCC on this issue, and I have to say, with all due respect to the regulator, from the music side, we have not had any help from NCC. And what makes that bizarre is that the NCC went behind the industry, and this is now new ground blockbuster information for everybody, and changed the copyright levy order. So the original copyright levy order 2012, rights holders got 60% of the money that was collected. And by the way, they have collected a significant amount of money because FMACCE spoke with the Ministry of Justice and said, activate this levy. This is even how we found out that they've changed the levy order in 2021 behind the back of everyone. And now NCC is getting about 40% of the money. Rights holders are getting only 30%, and God knows some other government
You
agencies
don't
have
know.
nothing to do with doing the
Isioma,
rest. So they cannot talk
30%
about the
is not
issue
true.
of funding. They cannot talk about NCC cannot say they are underfunded. If you are collecting 40% of the copyright levy order revenue, you are not underfunded in any way. And by the way, we've done analysis at RELP of what the ratios are in other countries. It is an abomination that government is taking over 70% of revenue that is earned from the hard work of rights holders. So you can't, if you are going to take that money, which is totally wrong, then do the work that you're supposed to do of enforcement. I know how many times I've sat with NCC talking about online issues. For example, Net Nigeria that are taking music, people are listening to music online for free. And then they'll tell us, oh, they need resources. They are under resource. Only for us to find out that there's this money that they are going to collect if they have never collected it, where they're collecting 40% of the money that is based on our sweat. We have to speak truth to power. I love a collaborative relationship with the regulator, but this is a huge problem. Has NCC even had a formal engagement with the Federal Ministry of Arts, Culture, and the Creative Economy, which is critical to us? I'm ready for a lot of this information, and I'm going to bring it to this forum here. And I'm raising the alarm. Definitely, this is a serious problem. How can they
If
keep
I jump
collecting
in, Isioma,
a lot of money? We're talking
I'm
about
not
Sorry,
5
saying,
billion
can I also
we
naira,
have to
piggyback
be,
a bit
and they
no,
are
on
collecting
Isioma has done
60%
something to
of it,
collect information.
and they are coming here and telling us that
Isioma,
they
let
don't
her
have
finish.
what
Let
I'm
her
quality
saying,
finish, please.
enforcement. No. So, let's speak to power. Let's say the truth. If the issue is that you have funding but you don't have the skill set, that's a different conversation. We can have that conversation. But funding under the new copyright levy order is not a problem for NCC in any way, shape, or form. And that copyright levy order, Uncle Mahmoud, you are highly affected by this copyright levy order that was done. You are
Isioma,
highly
let
affected
me
as
say,
APRN.
let me add here. I think you are not up to date, right, with this funding issue and what is being collected and what is due to the creative sector. I'm grapevine, and I know that the 30% that is supposed to be due to the creative sector has even been reduced. You see, the challenge is not just with the NCC. The government itself, the finance ministry is taking a chunk of the money. The customs, they're taking a chunk of the money. The budget office, to the extent that what is left for the creative industry, if it's even up to 10%, we should thank God, right? So the government has to see to it that, look, we must do things the way it's done globally. There cannot be seen a levy order that is put in place by law that is supposed to ameliorate the scourge of piracy. It shouldn't be seen as revenue. But what is happening right now is that that collection, which I know is as it should be in billions, is being seen as revenue to government, and that shouldn't be the case. It's not NCC that is responsible for this. Who collects the money? Is the government, it's the customs, and throws it into the TSA account, whatever that means. The NCC has no access to it. So the people who are supposed to release the money to NCC. No, no, no. I'm not holding forth. I'm not holding forth for NCC here.
So they are not
Yes.
unpaid. They are not
No, no, no.
And
Isioma, let me get this to you, right? I am aware of this. NCC is not collecting the money. There's an agency of government that collects the money, and it's left to the Ministry of Finance to disburse the money according to the law. But it's not being done. NCC itself is handicapped. That's just the point I want to make. I'm not supporting NCC, but NCC itself is handicapped. It's a Nigerian problem. It's a problem of the Ministry of Finance. Whether the Minister of Finance or the Secretary to Government or the President himself should see to this. This money has been collected as a levy from people's goods, and they should let us have it. Someone, I'm not hearing you.
And I think this is the
Please,
point
I want to
where
say something.
the stakeholders
we-
in the industry,
Sorry,
like I
Charles.
said earlier on, will have to come in, because left for the NCC is just an arm of government, and my DG cannot go to the Minister of Finance and start to challenge what is going on there. He cannot go to the customs CG and be asking questions. And that's why I said the industry itself will have to play a major role in this. Like, I love what Isioma is throwing up here. Beautiful. Beautiful. So the industry will have to come in at some point and questions what is going on. You have the right to do that, because in the real sense of it, this copyright levy is posed on the materials that are copyrighted. And who are the main beneficiaries? They are the right owners who created this work in the first place, not the government institutions. So as it stands, my DG cannot go to the Minister of Finance or go to the President to complain. So that's why I said the industry itself has a role to play in all this. As far
Maybe
as
what your DG needs to do is to make the thing public officially, to say this is what we're, because what we have right now has not been made public. It's just because some of us are privileged, you know. So based on that, we can react.
Sir Mahmoud, sir, my DG will not do that. We will not do that.
Okay,
But for you
just
guys out there that have this information, and you can actually authenticate that information, you can push it out there.
Uncle
don't have the
Mahmoud, I
access
can
to
tell
it.
you that
let's
from
hear
an
from Beverly,
MPAN and
please.
RELP perspective, we have already escalated the issue in government. We have written
Me
and we have
too.
made a clear demand to government that they should return to the 2012 sharing ratio. We've done that, and we're now working through FMACCE to ensure that that is done. But
That is
to
good.
my point, and I say it again, if NCC was railroaded by other arms of government to prepare this regulation, and honestly, I can see how that can happen. So let me give benefits of the doubt. There were different points at which that information should have been shared with the ministry. Is it not music? How many times do we go and picket on different issues? We would have
Exactly.
raised hell. You understand? But it is the way we found out was not good. We found out by chance because of us that plugged into the policy issue. We
Don't
found out
raise
by chance
hell.
and we were shocked. And you know what makes this more painful? Let me say what makes this more painful. You see, MPAN had been fighting, writing to finance to activate the levy in the last
No.
administration. In fact, I almost feel that we were the ones that opened the Pandora's box.
You're
Because
not.
the
You don't know what
response we now
AVRS has
got was,
done.
so I don't know again because we are not talking to each other, so I can talk about what I know, right?
Yes.
So I
Okay.
know that MPAN was writing aggressively to Ministry of Finance to say activate this levy. It's been there since 2012. It's never been activated. But really, what they ended up doing was say, oh, like you said, Uncle Mahmoud, completely right. They now say, this is revenue generation, and let's all take a bit of the pie. And also, SCT took, okay, since this door is now open, SCT took a little bit more of the pie. You understand what I mean? So there are two ways we can approach this. We can decide that we should keep this abomination structure that does not exist in any other market. We can decide that, okay, let's even say we can't go exactly back to 2012. let's, adjust, give NCC a little bit more money. But as of today, based on that corporate levy order, which they've collected and come out, yes, it is in the billions that they've collected as of today.
Yes,
NCC no longer has
Saturday.
an excuse on enforcement. Yes, as of today is in the billions, I can tell you. And
I
now
know.
NCC with that cannot say that they have an issue with funding on enforcement. There's no more issue.
But the fund has not gotten to them. That is the issue.
The money is not with us. The
No,
money is not with
I'm
us.
saying
let
no. I
let
gave
let's
you
hear
context.
from
I said
let's
at
hear
the
from
point when
David,
they
please.
receive that money, there is no issue of they don't have funding,
Okay.
and that's coming soon. But the industry
Let,
has to. We need to
let,
get involved in this distribution and ensure that
Important.
the basis on how this money is collected cannot be shortchanged.
We
It's
should
critical,
know
and
what is
NCC should be on our
collected
side.
and what is being
It should
distributed.
be on
I'm
our side
jumping
in
in.
that fight. It has not
You
been
know.
right.
distributed
Let
from what
let's hear
I know.
from
It has
Beverly,
not
please.
been. Please, Beverly has been trying
Mhm.
to talk. I will off my mic now,
Yes.
as they
No,
say.
no, let me listen. We stand by
No,
turns.
seriously,
Beverly,
No,
one
for
please
me.
important
go
thing
ahead.
that we need to do
No,
is
for
that,
me.
you see, this is the fund
The,
that is for the creative industry, right? That is being collected. It's not government's money. I think the industry should know what is collected and what is going to be distributed to us. It shouldn't be in secrecy. Whatever custom is coming in with, yes, they can take their administrative charge, but the industry whose money it is must know. It's like a bank and their customer right now. Custom is the
Okay.
bank, the
Okay.
industry,
You see,
the customer.
it,
So know
it
what you are
brings us
collecting on our behalf so that we know what you are sharing. But we don't have an
it
idea of
brings
that.
us it brings us back to the previous issue. If the industry cannot speak with a collective voice, you cannot make demands. Nobody will
Exactly.
listen. That's the problem.
Yeah.
Beverly, please, you've been trying to say something for a while.
Mm,
Please,
sorry.
no,
please go ahead.
there's two clear issues here today. The issue of collections, and for me, the one that concerns me most, because I'm a dispute professional, is contracts. And I wanted to kind of I have a different opinion to Isioma a bit on the role of the regulators as far as policy. I believe that it's up to the regulators to hear from the industry and then lay down the policy. So you see, right now we are in a kind of standstill. The regulators are not really pushing on the standardization. Admittedly, private sector too are just sitting down because let's be honest, many of them are benefiting from the situation. So truly, someone has to be speaking on behalf of the people who are exploited because the big guns are the ones enjoying the current situation. So all I'm saying is, can we have a takeaway from today that let there be some kind of roundtable in the next month between, say, and this is specifically to collective bargaining agreements, okay? At least with regard to the collective agreement, bodies involved agree people. It's your man. Once and for all on a way forward, because we all cannot just sit down arms folded and say, well, it's not up to us. The union should decide, and then they should now come and force our hand. No, I feel like, because one thing the finance industry does a lot better than creative industry is they know how to force, and then they see the reaction of the market, and then the market to push back. But at least they're putting something forward. So it would be good to see the regulators do more. You are not handicapped. Your hands are not tied. You know the plight of and I'm not speaking to the multi-million naira productions. I'm speaking about, the basic ones, the 1 million naira ones, the 5 million naira ones. Let's encourage the creative industry, no matter the level. We cannot keep singing and praising the ones that are doing very well because they made it on Netflix. No, it begins with worrying about the little man or woman wanting to host a production but do things the right way. So I'm saying a takeaway from today should be, let's have two major things on the agenda. Finance is clearly a problem. Sorting out I know you said, but but they still haven't done anything. So we still need to press more buttons. So let the contractual agreements be on the agenda, the standardization, let that be on the agenda, hot on the agenda. And then and then get more people to act as, say, I don't know, independent watchdogs to follow the process. You know how you have all these private bodies that will be following government say they want to build a bridge. I know it's on the edge, it's not being done. So we need more private sector people to participate in the monitoring. NCC, trademark body, all these various bodies, they can have their representatives monitoring these things. Yes, the copyright levy is allowing massive exploitations. I'm just seeing all commercial activity. So everything we're talking about is a long story. Let's sort out the collective bargaining agreements once and for all. Let's get the benefits, the benefits that accrue to the stakeholders. Let's sort those out properly. Let's get the lawyers in the room that know what they're talking about to come and have one-on-ones, workshops. We are available. The problem is sometimes we kind of just decide to do things the way we want to do it. Okay, the government is working on it, but do we know how they're working on it? Is it transparent? I can tell you today, I'm going on NCC website. All I see is generic things. I don't see even where I can lodge my complaint. So I'm just saying, can we have better reporting mechanisms? Can there be more, updates? Let there be more updates on what's going on. It shouldn't be that Isioma has to come here and effectively blow the whistle before we all take things seriously. Let there be proper report. This concerns the general public. This concerns our economy at large. Okay, the creative economy is a billion-dollar industry. It can change the lives of so many people. 2% eating and enjoying is nothing for us to be proud of. We want a situation where more people are enjoying and benefiting from this industry. So I'm putting my hand up because yes, I'm a doer. I'm not just a talker. If anybody wants me to join them, work with them, I am more than willing. You know, policy is what I do. I'm a big believer in policy because it is through policy we affect change. So please, on the contract side, on the dispute side, I feel like there's more that can be done. On the advocacy side as well, there's a lot more that needs to be done. So I just wanted to put my 2 cents on that.
Sorry, Beverly, can you go back to the issue of the roundtable discussion? You were breaking at the point you were trying to make your point through there.
I was just giving a suggestion. My suggestion being on the collective bargaining agreements, because I think some very valid points have come out of today's session. And I think it would be wise if we made notes, whether it's Pan Atlantic, School of Media, whether it's yourself as a representative of the NCC, there should have been a rapporteur to take notes. Okay, what are the key issues that have come out from today? And quick, within the next week or two, there should be some kind of formal stakeholders already. And there's not anybody, the regulators, from coming together to fight some of these problems. What's happening is everyone is working in their own silo. So I feel like there's a lot of answers that we've already proffered some solutions. The ones that are out of our hands, finance is in charge of disbursement. What is wrong with creating a peer pressure group to go and meet the finance industry? You see, we need to remember something. These are all public sector bodies that are accountable, and they are not emperors sitting on I don't know, on bodies that are not answerable to anybody. We need to, if important things are today, it is up to us to raise those challenges. So I'm just saying, please, let us convene after this, because there's a bigger picture here beyond Pan Atlantic University. Let us convene a round table to address the issue of the agreements, contracts, advocacy, and the funding. Those key issues need to be addressed, and it can't be done in silos. We all need to work more collaboratively. Okay, Isioma can't be fighting the fights by herself. Right? So that's all I'm saying. Can we just have a more strategic approach to the way we handle things? That's all I'm saying. Thanks.
Thank you.
That's a very good point.
just so that we're not working at cross purposes, let me say now two things in agreement with your takeaway. Uncle Mahmoud, me and you need to talk, because at least on this issue of the copyright levy, there's a point of alignment for AVRS, MPAN, and RELPI. And we need to have a whole different conversation, because RELPI has been doing a lot of groundwork on that, and let's coordinate. But on the issue of the collective bargaining of the contracts, I know that it's on government's agenda, and there's a roadmap that they have actually created on how to implement this. But I think the delay comes from the fact that there's no real pressure from the private sector on
That's
them
what we're
to say,
saying.
guys, yeah, we need this like really fast. So what I think,
Exactly.
what I would add to your suggestion, right, is that almost like there should be some kind of like, I know that in the music, in the film industry, there is a joint guild board, and they already had a meeting with the minister and laid their issues on the ground. So there's an engagement that is already happening. But I think that us as lawyers can come together and say, this is how this thing looks like in other places. Here are recommendations, boom. And it's just an additional piece of
Exactly.
information for government, for private
Exactly.
sector, anybody that wants it to thinking. But there's already, this is happening. This is probably going to start before the year ends, right? But I think that there is a place for educating the sector to be ready for when the government kickstarts that process. And I also think that NCC and FMACCE need to have a closer relationship. Already
Absolutely.
there's a problem with the fact that NCC is the Ministry of Justice, but that's a conversation for another day. But regardless, NCC and FMACC need to work more closely together. And I think that this issue of the standardization of the contracts might actually just be the catalyst to create some kind of
Absolutely.
intergovernment forum for them to engage
Absolutely.
officially,
Yeah.
because it is the
Yeah.
industry that benefits. So, Beverly, after this call, me
Exactly.
and you should talk, because I've
Yeah, let's
actually done
talk.
a lot
Let's
of
talk.
legwork on the issue. So let's have a side conversation, because I think there is a place for us just putting out an advisory on information, and it's for everybody. Government can take what they
Mm,
want from it, private sector can take what they want
mm,
from it. And
mm.
when it's time, when we're all called to come to the table to begin this process, let us be like sort of be available to engage in that process.
Absolutely.
I think there's almost a need for us as lawyers to be bodies to the different relevant groups as they go into this process together. Because everybody has different interests, but we must find a way to make sure that everybody is informed enough to make sure that it's a win-win-win situation. So that's what I would add to what you've said.
Yes, I'm absolutely ready to let's do it. Let's I mean in my capacity as chairperson of Sports Entertainment Media Committee, MBSBL, there's a bit of leverage there. So I would love to, work with you or have you support at least from the angle of the MBSBL. So we're using the benefit of the platform. Do you see what I mean? Because I think the moral of for me of today's session, the takeaway for me is there is power in the collective. We are not leveraging on this collective enough. That's the truth. So we've got people like you, amazing, going out there having those battles one to one, which is great. You've built up the relationships, but there's nothing like having a collective pressure. Nothing like it. Nothing beats it. Look at how they've been overturning financial levies up and down, cybersecurity levy. They shut it down. They didn't even follow their own rules. They just shut it down without even following the proper process for and that was an act. So there is power, peer pressure, industry pressure. So I agree with you. I would love to work with you on this because again, contracts are the foundation and bedrock of commercial activity. It's where everything begins. So yeah, let's do it, Isoma. I'll ping you on Monday so we can discuss. Thanks, Pan Atlantic, for getting
Fantastic.
Isoma and I to
I
talk.
am exactly. I'm happy that we've at least achieved one thing here. And I hope we'll achieve so much more. Well, our time is running out. We have just about 4 minutes. Would you all like to give a very brief final statement? let's go to Charles first. He's the one who's been under more attack here. So let's give.
Not really, not really, not
No,
really.
just joking, just joking. Okay.
Whatever has been discussed here today will make our job easier as regulators. So you're actually helping us out. So I never saw it as an attack, but rather as a helping hand coming in at the right time. So, by way of concluding, I want to emphasize more on the issue of collaboration, advocacy, and adherence to legal frameworks so that we can ensure a thriving and resilient industry. The industry can do better. Creators of work can get more for for their efforts, and at the end of the day, the industry will be a standard point for the growth of our economy, and everybody will continue to see themselves as a contributor to this huge success. I want to thank the organizers for inviting Nigerian Corporate Commission to this discussion, and I hope that in the nearest future, the issue of collaboration that has been emphasized here will come to fruition. I want to see Sioma and Beverly and Uncle Mahmoud sitting on the round table and putting these things together so that the industry will actually move forward. Thank you very much. I appreciate.
Thank you very much, Charles. Thank you very much. Beverly, any final words? Sorry, you're muted.
Sorry, I lost my screen. Okay,
Okay.
so again, I want to say a massive thank you for having me today. Part of a very, very fascinating conversation in the creative industry. I believe we've established that contracts form the backbone of commercial activity, creative activity included. And it's absolutely clear that we don't really have that level of respect for contracts that we need to, coupled with, compounded by the problems of not even understanding the technicalities of the industry. So we're kind of at a conundrum where there's too much there's a lack of awareness, and also there's people still exploiting that ignorance. So I want to also say us lawyers have a responsibility to support this industry with whatever advocacy we can. And that doesn't mean us acting like, prophets in the wilderness. We have a duty to actually give support to the regulators, because the regulators may not know it all. They may not know the ethical considerations, legalities of some of these things. So I want to say, again, in my capacity as chairperson of the, oh dear, can you hear me? Okay, of the
We can
Sports
hear you.
Entertainment Committee. I want to do more I want to commit more time and efforts to really support this industry. There's a massive issue going on, and I've become aware of some of these issues. So yes, I shall be throwing my hat in the ring a little bit more to support the efforts and to enhance and enforce those rights of people in the industry, in the creative industry. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Beverly. Mahmoud, any last words?
Well, again, I'd like to apologize for me not being able to get my video working. Right, I'm not a technical person, but just a creative. Well, I think all has been said. Like what I always stress, there's a need for the collective to work together. We can blow all the grammar we want. If we don't come together to fight our cause, and I know some of you know I've been involved with this for almost 4 decades, right? So that's why that's why they call me uncle. It's not that I'm very old, right? So please, for those who are not on the panel and listening, please spread the gospel. We got all to work together to move this creative sector forward. right? Because we are privileged to have access cannot immune us from facing the vagaries of not getting the collective properly compensated for their creative work. I want to thank PAU. I can't stop thanking PAU because my daughter is about to leave there in a few weeks. Right, for this opportunity that is giving the industry, creative sector, week in, week out, for us to bring out issues with a view to finding solutions. Isioma, you and I have been on this journey for a while. I'm glad to have Beverly join us. You know, you will see my face more now that I know you, because because with the ignorance that I'm leading, if I tell you that we have almost 10 cases in court right now for those who are challenging the law that establish what we do, and those who ignorantly just want us to have issues. So thank you very much, everyone. I believe the suggestions on ground will be seriously looked at with a view of moving forward. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Isioma, any last words?
I've already said too many words.
A couple of
But
minutes.
first of all, thank you to PAU. For those who know me know that this is my fashion. So those who don't know me, welcome. So first of all, thank you to
We all
PAU
know you.
for this
We
for
all
this
on this
platform.
panel know you.
So thank you so much for this platform, and you know, I have to speak to the commitment of PAU industries. I have a cousin who is doing very well in the music space that is a graduate of PAU, and for to great effect that is much needed. In terms of my last comments, I'm in total alignment with everyone. Once we get policy
Okay,
rights, we get the enabling environment rights, we get domestic monetization rights, and then we can say, and I keep telling people, we actually don't have a creative economy. We have a creative community. Because a creative economy, somebody asked a question, how much is revenues being generated from XYZ? We don't have that data because we don't really have a creative economy. In the next 3 years, we need to move from being a creative community to a creative economy by having the right policies and an enabling environment. And all of us working together, working with government, you can see as much as I attacked NCC, look at how amiable they were to say, no, what you're saying is to help us. Maybe after this, I will kneel down and raise up my hand. But I'm willing to take the heat for the industry, right? But the point is that we have all the right ingredients to make change that we need, and let us engage with that process and ensure that we
Absolutely.
get the outcomes that we need. And thank you very much.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much, PAU, for the platform. Thank you so much. And thank you to all the wonderful panelists. Thank you.
Thank you
Thank you,
to my
Isioma. Thank you very much,
co-panelists
Isioma.
too. Thank
Thank
you.
Yeah.
you.
So once again, thank you all very much. Thanks to our audience. Thank you all for being here. We look forward to having you again at the next edition of this forum. And certainly we will follow up. We will try and follow up on the suggestions here to really come up with a position paper, the advisory that this year mentioned. I think it's something that really needs to be done. And we also will try and play our role. Thank you all so much. Thank you all so much for your contributions. Thank you all so much for your attention to the audience. And do have a very enjoyable rest of the Saturday. Thank you. God bless.
You're welcome. Bye.
Bye-bye.